Is Brock Purdy back? Welcome into the 49ers podcast. This is the Niner Narrative podcast. I am Chunder Boy, and this is where we bring context to the conversation. I have been on a slight technically challenged hiatus. It's been probably, 6 weeks or so since we dropped a video. And first and foremost, apologies for not getting more videos out. But I wanted to make sure we get back into this, get back on track. I finally got some of the technical difficulties figured out, including the fact that this is the third time I've recorded this tonight because I can't seem to get some technical difficulties right anyway. But we're going to push forward. We're going to move on. There are some things we need to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. So first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. You are the reason that we're here. So please like, subscribe to the video. Let's get more content going. And let's really take this thing to the next level. So, what are we going to talk about tonight? First and foremost, there are some things as I was going through some 49ers recap stuff that stuck out to me that I want to talk about. We'll get to that in just a minute. Also, of course, we have to talk about Brock. He played a terrific game against the Titans, and we have to discuss where he's at. There's been some ups, there's been some downs. Some really good games, some not so good games. Is he actually back? Is what we saw because he played the Titans, or is what we saw with over 75% completion, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 140 passer rating, 140.3, I think, to be exact. Was that just because they were playing Tennessee, or has Brock got his mojo back? We're going to discuss all that and more. But first, I want to talk about some unprecedented things with this 49ers regime. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, since they got here, and that's the regime I'm talking about, the Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch regime have done a couple of things that I just don't think get talked about enough. And they're totally unprecedented. I can't think of a single instance of another team doing what they've done over the last couple of years. Well, I guess it's almost a decade now. I got to stop saying the last couple of years. So, to start this season, there was not a lot of reason for hope. There's really no reason to expect the 49ers were going to win double-digit games and be in a position to make a run at the 1 seed with only 3 games left. Considering what's happened since the offseason, there's even less reason to none of this makes any sense, really. So how have the 49ers gotten here? And I have a couple of things that just might shed a little bit of light on the subject. So let's go back to the beginning of this offseason. The 49ers had more money leave in free agency to other teams, get signed out of the building, than any team in the history of the NFL. They did so while carrying $100 million in dead cap by the time the season started. They also didn't bring anybody into the building. Their number one signing was a backup tight end that they overpaid. If you compound that information by the laundry list of injuries throughout the offseason, predicting something like 13-4, which is what my prediction was, doesn't make any sense. It sounds like I'm throwing darts in the dark and I got real lucky. But there are some things that I considered that I thought would make this season go in a way that nobody else really thought it would. And that's not because I'm awesome or anything. Maybe I am. But it's because there were some things that I feel like were just getting overlooked. One, this team overcomes adversity as well as any team I've ever seen. Throughout the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch era, they have had injured season after injury. How many times have the 49ers been either the most injured team or the second or third or fourth most injured team in the entire NFL? And in a couple of those seasons, I mean, they had one season with their top 5 in injuries and went to the NFC Championship game. They played with their third string quarterback and rattled off 7 wins and went to the NFC Championship game and probably should have won that game if the quarterback, who was their third stringer, didn't get hurt. If they didn't have to rely on their running back to throw passes, they've got a shot in that game too. When have you ever heard of anything even remotely close to that in the history of the NFL? When have you ever heard of a coach going to 4 NFC Championship games, 2 Super Bowl appearances, with 3 consecutive NFC Championship games, while starting 10 quarterbacks and having 6 different leading rushers in that same time span? When have you ever heard anything like that, even close? This team overcomes adversity better than any team I have ever seen when it comes to injuries and roster and noise. The 49ers started this season with a ton of high-end talent still on the roster. Everybody was focused on all the people that left. Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, right? Our backup left tackle, which was apparently just the amount of people that thought Jalen Moore leaving was going to make our offensive line fall apart is pure insanity. When has any franchise ever freaked out because they were going to lose a backup tackle? The thing that stands out to me among all this is that with everything that went out the door, the actual amount of playing time, the impact on the field that we lost was actually not that much. Outside of Dre Greenlaw, what actually left? So that was the first thing I noticed. The second thing that I noticed is that the team always seems to find a way when things happen. Trent Williams goes down, someone steps in, they win a couple of games anyway. George Kittle goes down, somebody steps in. There are a couple of critical guys, Nick Bosa, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. Those are really the 3 guys. Critical. We lose those guys, it's really hard to overcome. The only guy, it seems, that Kyle Shanahan has not figured out how to overcome is when Christian McCaffrey goes down. That seems to just ruin everything. The 49ers have an unprecedented ability to overcome the obstacles. The 49ers also started the season with how many Hall of Famers on this team? Trent Williams, first ballot Hall of Famer. Fred Warner, first ballot Hall of Famer. George Kittle, first ballot Hall of Famer. Let me know if you've heard this before. Nick Bosa, probably a Hall of Famer. Christian McCaffrey, probably a Hall of Famer. Juszczyk, who knows? That's a weird one. Perennial All-Pro. This team had as much top-end talent as almost any team in football. How many teams have that much top-end talent? How many teams have 5, 6 perennial All-Pros? And how many of those teams have the majority of those guys? Bosa, Warner, Kittle, either in or on the back end. I mean, in Kittle's situation, he's maybe not in his prime. He's kind of on the back end of his prime. Christian McCaffrey's probably in the back end of his prime. But you have multiple guys still playing at an all-pro level. Here's the second thing that the 49ers have done during this regime. How many teams in the NFL in the last 10 years have had as much success drafting outside of the top 50, outside of the top 100? How many teams have built the core of their roster with day 3 guys? Oh, they just got lucky with Brock Purdy. Maybe. They get lucky with Diamador Lenore? No. It's not luck. They built him up. They developed him. George Kittle was developed. Fred Warner didn't even think he could play middle linebacker. He played star position in college. Fred Warner was a safety linebacker hybrid that had never played middle linebacker. He was developed. Colton McKivitz got cut. Now he's a top 10 right tackle. Developed. Burford has played 3 different spots on the offensive line, playing pretty decently at left guard. Even when he's banged up, developed. D. Winters, our leading tackler this season, developed. How much of this list do you want me to go through? Our team has been drafted and developed outside of the first 3 rounds. It's insane. I know Fred Warner was the 3rd rounder. Our best defensive lineman this year is probably Kalia Davis, drafted in the 6th round. So this organization has shown you that they can consistently find and develop talent. They have shown you that they can consistently overcome adversity when things don't necessarily look right, when the stats don't look right. I told a good friend of mine, Gammon. A lot of you probably know who that is. I told him, I'm not concerned about the offensive line. And he said, what? How are you not concerned about the offensive line? I said, listen, I don't have a good reason for it. I don't have any stats to back it up. All I can say is every year we talk about how we didn't address the offensive line, and the offensive line is going to be the reason. And every year it's fine. It's never awesome, but it's fine. They get by just fine. They consistently go to NFC Championship, late playoff runs. Now, can you make the argument that the offensive line is the reason we didn't win at least 1 Super Bowl? You can. It's hard to win championships when you don't have a top-tier offensive line. I totally understand the argument. I'm not trying to defend it at all. I'm just saying that when the season was starting, when I look at a talent littered with high-end guys, as much or more as anybody in football, littered with a bunch of young guys and a coaching staff with a clear track record of developing them. And then you compound all of that with the weakest schedule in football. Now, some of that turned out to not be true. The Browns, one of the top defenses of football. Houston has the best defense of football. The Colts turned out to be really good. We didn't think that was going to happen necessarily. Atlanta, for a stretch there, was terrific. We pretty much all thought that was going to be a loss by the time that game came around. But the schedule was terrible. When you take a team with that much Hall of Fame caliber talent, that much ability to draft and develop late round guys, to get production out of guys that nobody really thinks should have a lot of production. If you compound that with the schedule they've had, and by the way, they also do a tremendous job of bringing people into the organization who contribute. I don't know if there's another team in the league that gets contributors out of nobodies better than the 49ers do. They have a clear track record from Charles Mendenhue, Arden Key, to bring Jake Farrell was a cast-off. They got guys all over the roster. Front end, back end. Jason Pinnock is playing a huge role for us right now. He's a cast-off. They get contributions from guys who are cast-offs. This team continues to do it year after year, and nobody wants to believe them. They deserve some credit. There are some things I don't like about how this team operates. I really wish they would figure out how to pick in the top 100. Their record in picking in the top 100 is atrocious. It's probably near the bottom of the league. Actually, I'm gonna look up the numbers on that. I wonder exactly where it is. It's not good. But when you look at everything, that's what is lost in so many of these narratives. This is why we bring context to the conversation. Because when you look at everything, there's a clear picture that develops. That's why we said 13-4. And fingers crossed, Coach has to buy me a new lawnmower because that's what he said would happen if they actually won 13 games. Now, did I think Nick Bosa was going to get lost for the year? No. Did I think Fred Warner, who's a perennial Iron Man, played 7 straight years, only missed 1 game, was going to go down for half the season? Did I think we were going to lose Brock for half the season? Did I think we were going to lose Kittle for 5 games? Of course not. Did I think BA would never see the field and have all of his guarantees taken away? Nobody knew that was coming. It's not a victory lap. It's bringing everybody into my thought process. This is how we come to the conclusions that we come to on this channel, by looking at everything. So let's get into a recap of what's been going on, because the 49ers have been playing really well, sort of. Special teams, with the exception of this game against the Titans. Now, maybe there was something that I missed. I missed a little small chunk of the game. But I've gone back, I've looked, the special teams, Pinero, 4 field goals, I think it was. Sky Moore, I think, early they were kicking to Robinson. They didn't even want to kick to Sky Moore. And that's because the last several games, the 49ers special team has been kicking ass and taking names. They've been a difference maker. The 49ers defense, and we'll get to them more in depth later, but just to touch on them, the 49ers defense, their young defense, because even with all the injuries, they're very young, is playing a style of defense that can win games. But they need some help, and we'll explain what that is later. So the 49ers have rattled off 4 in a row. Brock Purdy seems to get better. He seems to be getting his feet back under him, right? Maybe that toe issue is finally getting resolved. Maybe not. Maybe that has nothing to do with it. Who knows? But he seems to be finding a little bit of rhythm. He's got a little bit of swag going. And Brock Purdy's playing high-level football. But is that because Brock Purdy fixed something? Or is it because Brock Purdy just got done playing the Titans, and before that they played the Browns, before they played Carolina, and who knows? Is it because of the schedule? Or is the team finding some continuity? I like to think it's the latter. Why? Because I'm an optimist, and I really want them to succeed this year. And if it's the latter, it bodes really well for where they're at in the season and what they might be able to do in the playoffs. So what have they done recently? They've won the turnover battles consistently. They've played a bend but don't break style of defense. They finally got a couple of decent games out of their running game, although it still isn't. Do we have a game this year where we've gotten more than 4 yards to carry? I imagine there's got to be one, but we're still averaging under 4. Just did it again this week against the Titans, so it's not like the run game's fixed, but the run game kind of does just enough. The 49ers are, it seems, hitting their stride at just the right time. Let's just hope it's not a mirage. We're about to find out, because the next 3 games on the schedule are critical. Not just for the team, but for one player individually. And that's Brock Purdy. The next 3 games are arguably the most important 3 games in Brock Purdy's career. Why would I say that? Well, let's take a step back for a second. Brock Purdy entered the league and was lightning the bottle. He got no reps in training camp as the 4th quarterback. He got no reps in the first half of the season as the 3rd string quarterback. He got some reps and ran the scout team for a couple of weeks before he got thrown into the starting role against teams that blitzed him like half or more. I think that first game that he played when he went in against Miami, that was Brian Flores, and they blitzed him like 60% of the dropbacks. For a rookie with that little preparation, to show that kind of moxie, to show that much grasp of the offense, and then you just rattle them off and rattle them off and rattle them off, and you get to the NFC Championship game. By the way, Kyle Shanahan, another NFC Championship game with his 3rd string quarterback who's a rookie. Clear trend. How many people said that if Brock Purdy didn't get hurt, 49ers win that football game? But he's a rookie. He's not that good. Well, then why is he the difference between winning and losing? Well, because you can't win with no quarterback. And Dobbs got knocked out also. That's fair. But then he comes out and continues to do that in year 2. And he's in the MVP conversation. And there's a lot of people saying, you're not going to get me twice. You got me with Jimmy G. I bought the fool's gold. You're not going to, nope, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. A lot of people had scars, and they're like, nah, I've seen this before. I know what this looks like. That's fool's gold, but it isn't. And then in 2024, a lot of people talked about, see, when he doesn't have an all-star cast around him, when he doesn't have the Avengers, he's terrible. They ignored the game where he had 8 incompletions and 6 of them were drops. They ignored the fact that the 49ers had the lowest separation rate by receivers in 15 years in the NFL. They ignored the fact that the offensive line was a sieve and that he was consistently running for his life. However, I was concerned. I was concerned that a young quarterback in that situation might have messed up his clock. A young quarterback in that situation might have ruined his confidence. And sometimes you can't get those things back. And there was real question marks, even from people like me who are Brock supporters, on whether or not Brock should be your quarterback long term, because in 2024, there were simply too many critical errors. He made too many mistakes in critical moments, and you can't have that from your franchise quarterback, because otherwise you have Kirk Cousins. Is Brock back? I hope so. I would like to think that Brock, through all of this, has finally settled back in, is finally seeing it clear again, and his ability to anticipate and his ability to throw the ball layered and to throw the ball with different arm angles and actually put a little zip on it from time to time. It seems as though he's got his moxie back a little, but is it a mirage? Can we trust our eyes? Can we trust a stat line of 76% completion, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks? By the way, Brock Purdy doesn't get anywhere near enough credit for how many multiple touchdown, 0 pick games he's had, because he has those pretty frequently. Maybe frequently is the wrong word. He's got a lot of them. Gets crushed every time he throws 2 picks, though. I don't know if Brock Purdy is back, but I do know the next 3 games are going to define his career. Because if Brock plays well in the next 3 games, the 49ers roll into this postseason with 12 wins, maybe 13 if they win them all. They go into the playoffs and they win a game, maybe 2. Maybe they get another NFC championship game with all these injuries. If Brock plays well and they accomplish anything at all, he's going to get a ton of credit and he deserves it. And it's going to reset the way he's viewed in the league. If Brock plays poorly through these next 3 games and they lose 2 or even through all 3 of them, playing 3 playoff teams, we lose 2, maybe even 3, and then get 1 and done in the playoffs, because we'll probably make it even if we lose 3 in a row. If he plays poorly against the playoff caliber teams and we get bounced in the first round, he's probably done. I mean, it's hard to say that he's the real deal and should be your franchise quarterback if what you've seen turns out to be the real Brock. If what we saw in 2024, if that's the real Brock and not what we saw in 2023, well then, you got to face reality. If he plays like this down the stretch against 3 really good teams, I don't care, Indianapolis, doesn't have a quarterback. He's playing our defense. He's not playing our offense. If Brock plays well through the last 3 games and then goes and wins a playoff game or 2, or even if they lose, but it's not because of him, he played his ass off, it'll totally rewrite his story moving forward. The next 3 games are the most critical games in Brock Purdy's career. This guy might be in a similar situation because Ricky Pearsall can't stay on the field. I know everybody gets banged up, and especially this time of year, everybody's playing with something. But everybody isn't hobbling off the field 2 or 3 times a game. And Ricky Pearsall now has, 5 injuries, 6 injuries in 2 years? He's constantly on the injury report, and it's not from some fluke stuff where some guy took a leg out. He got tackled. This is the same kind of tackle that gets made on JJ. Well, JJ's bigger. Okay. Kendrick Bourne had back-to-back games, 154 yards, or whatever it was. He's getting 10 targets plus. He's getting tackled too, the same way that Ricky Pearsall is, and he makes it through the game just fine. So, is Ricky Pearsall injury prone? I don't know. But this is a really bad trend. He's got to figure out a way to string together some healthy games because his development is being so hurt by these injuries. Not only because you can't get better at football without playing. It's just that simple. You can't get better if you don't play. But Ricky Pearsall, specifically, the thing that makes this work, the thing that makes him potentially a legit number 1 wide receiver in the NFL is because his skill set perfectly matches Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan wants timing and rhythm offense. I will map it out for you. You drop back, you hit your back foot, you hit your hitch, you hit your second hitch, and there's this will open, then that'll open. Everything is all laid out for you. You just got to do it. It doesn't work if you don't have a quarterback that knows how to stay on time with it, and you don't have wide receivers who get open when they're supposed to get open on time. Ricky Pearsall has the ability to get open consistently on time. He's got tremendous catch ability, natural hands, but also the ability to he's got good concentration. He will fight for the ball. He comes back to the ball. He does all the things right. But if he doesn't string together some games where he can play healthy, have his legs under him, he's going to have he's going to have probably a career like Christian McCaffrey. And what I mean by that is I don't mean he's going to be viewed as the best wide receiver in football at any point in his career. What I do mean is he's going to have a 10-year career where he's going to spend 7 years out of that 10 years injured. And in the 3 years he's not injured, he's going to have really good seasons. And every other year he won't. Because he won't be able to stay healthy and put it together. And I've heard some people say that he just has to put on his NFL body. The dude was drafted when he's 25. He already had an NFL body. Or should have. He didn't get drafted at 21 and he's a kid and he needs to grow up a little bit so he can handle the NFL contacts. Not the situation with Pearsall. He played 6 years. Got drafted when he's 25, 24. You give him 2 years to put on his NFL body. That's after this season, and he's already 26. I don't know. I'm really disappointed. Ricky Pearsall is a great guy. Great dude. Great locker room guy. He's exactly the kind of personality you hope to get out of your wide receivers. You don't want the divas. You want the guys to just work hard. But he can't stay healthy. It is so frustrating. I really believe a lot in Ricky Pearsall, and I hope and I pray that he gets healthy because I think that him and Purdy could really have a special connection. Just that almost telekinetic thing where Brock just throws a ball and it's where's he throwing that? And then Ricky Pearsall just comes across, catches it on the run. He's gone. I'd love to see it. But I don't always get my wish. That's enough of the offense because none of it's going to matter if the defense isn't good enough. So the last topic I want to talk about tonight is, does the defense have enough? The defense has been playing a sort of bend but don't break style, has no pass rush, and is spotty at best against the run. And I'm trying to figure out if there's anything, I'm trying to take all the information and say, is there a way the 49ers defense holds up well enough for the 49ers to have a magical run? It's unlikely. But there is one scenario that I came up with. And that's getting a little bit lucky at just the right time. Alfred Collins swiping in a giant bear paw and knocking the ball out at the 1 yard line is a great play. But if that play happens when you're already down 3 scores, it doesn't have as much impact. If that play happens when you're already up 3 scores, doesn't have that much of an impact. But when that play happens the way it did in a game like that, in a critical situation, it's a massively impactful play. And that's kind of what I mean by lucky. You're going to need some guys to make some plays. Clearly, you're going to have to overcome some. The other teams are going to get some plays on you because this defense is just going to have some holes. But can you make enough plays, which I think they can, but do those plays come in critical situations? Does a ball bounce our way? Does a tip go up in the air and we actually get to catch one? If the 49ers can just get a little bit lucky, I think they might have enough on defense. The young guys got to get better. And the up front, it's got to be better. Tatum Bethune, when he comes back, should improve the run game. The coaches have to figure out a better way through personnel to hold the edge against the run. I don't know. It's a real question mark. The 49ers defense doesn't turn the ball over at a high clip. They're like bottom third in the league this year in turnovers. If special teams plays well and continues to give them good field position, if the offense continues to at least move the ball, keep them off the field for stretches of time, and maintain field position, win the field position battle, and if the 49ers defense just gets a little bit lucky at the right time, then they have enough. But if you need that many things to go in your favor, then that means you don't have enough. It's likely the 49ers are going to lose in the playoffs in a shootout. They're going to score. Well, I say shootout. They're going to lose a game where they do score 26 or 27 or 28 points or whatever, but give up 30. They're going to lose a game where they score 28 but give up 30. Score 30 but give up 35. That's probably the way that they're going to lose when they get knocked out. And it sucks because, boy, would this be a great season to just go on a magical run in the playoffs. You win the last few games. You figure out how to get the 1 seed. The Rams maybe lose a game to Seattle, which means the last game of the season actually matters. The 49ers are playing for the 1 seed. They win that game. They get a bye. Then they win another game, and now it's the NFC Championship game. You get Fred Warner back, and everybody's just hyped because they got the heart of their team back on defense. They're flying around. They actually have good run defense. They make it all the way to the Super Bowl and they win one because they get to play a team like, Buffalo, but they're injured, or they get to play a team like, the Ravens, but they're injured, or whatever. They play a team that that has their own flaws. The 49ers go on a magical run. It's all there. It's all possible. It's just so unlikely. So many things have to bounce the 49ers way. However, isn't that kind of what's been happening all year? The 49ers had no business beating the Rams. To be honest, they had no business beating the Seahawks in the first game of the season. It's been happening all year. Multiple games they've won this year, they had no business winning. And they gutted it out. And they were relentless. And they continued to play hard. They played their ass off. And they capitalized when the other team made a mistake. And if they continue to do that, and if the way that Brock played the last couple of weeks is not a mirage, if he's got his swagger back, and if Kyle continues to be in his bag, because outside of a game or two this year, Kyle has been fucking dialing up week in and week out. Then we've got a chance. We've got a chance to do something really special this year. But I'm a perennial 49ers optimist. I always try to see the silver lining. We should be thrilled because our team's going to win probably at least 11 or 12 games at least. They're going to make the playoffs. And we're going to get to watch 49ers play in January. We'll find out if they have enough. My name is Chunder Boy. If you've made it this far, please, again, like, sub. Let's grow the channel. Let's get this thing going. We're going to bring more context to more conversations. We're going to continue to look at the whole picture, and we're going to bring you the views that nobody else has. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night and a Merry Christmas.